Hello?
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 Where the are your parents?
Oh shit, Think Story fans, I just learned how to use green screen, so get pumped for more shit like this. Okay, enough of that. Today we're covering Netflix's Locke and Key, taking a deep dive into its ending, finding out who exactly these demons are, and you'll want to stick around for the end of the video, as we'll be going over what the ending could mean for Season 2. So smash that like button, because here we go. What better way to start an ending explained video than at the end, with the shocking revelation that Gabe is actually the demon Dodge in disguise, and that everyone's favorite condiment queen, Eden, has been taken over by a demon as well. But in order to really understand how we got here, we need to travel back in time. These are the original keepers of the keys, 7 teens who harnessed their powers but ultimately bit off more than they could chew. Ellie tells us that their problems began shortly after opening the Black Door, a portal to another world located in what the graphic novels call the Drowning Cave. Fun fact, in the novels there are multiple doors in the cave, with the Black Door being the last one, which makes sense since the Omega symbol also happens to be the last letter in the Greek alphabet. It's often used to denote the end of things, which is exactly what happens when they open the door, unleashing an unknown demonic entity from another realm who seeks to destroy anything and everything in order to get its hands on the keys. Unbeknownst to the keepers, Lucas was hit with one of these demonic bullets, its entity slowly taking over his body, leading to the tragic deaths of Kim, Jeff, and Lucas himself. And they do what any teens would do in this situation and dump him in the ocean. Actually, it's not that half bad of an idea. Imagine going to the police and telling them a demonic entity took control of your best friend when you used an ancient key on a portal to an interdimensional realm. Not to mention the riffle rule is in effect. Now this isn't really explained fully in the show, but the riffle rule is what disables an adult's ability to directly see magic. The purpose of the rule was to prevent adults from discovering, using, or abusing the powers of the keys. I'm hoping we'll get a little more clarity on this next season. Now the keepers of the keys end up divvying them up, vowing never to use them, except for Ellie, whose life had taken a downward toll with the death of her high school sweetheart Lucas still weighing heavily on her.
Other people, their lives get bigger, fuller. I just felt like I was disappearing.
She hit her breaking point and ventured to the well house using the echo key to summon Lucas from the dead. But it's not really Lucas. It's actually the demon we'll come to know as Dodge. You may have missed it, but the show explains the origins of the name Dodge as a nickname given to Lucas at school. He was a star fencer with a tremendous ability to dodge and parry attacks, so Ellie gave him that nickname. Ellie could sense this wasn't the real Lucas and was like, hey, great seeing you, and go sim harder than the girls that match me on Tinder. You see, an echo can only escape the well house by using the Anywhere key, a key which allows its wielder to travel through any door in the world as long as they've seen it before. When Bodhi's mother gets stuck in the mirror, he comes running for Dodge's help, who subsequently tricks him and steals the keys so she can chow down and steal expensive jewelry. By the way, Eden eating a ton of food in the final scene is a fun callback to episode 2. Gabe and Eden's demonic brunch wouldn't have been possible without Dodge completely foiling the Locke's family plan to stop Dodge for good. In fact, at the end of the season, the Locke family still thinks everything is back to normal. They even decide to stay in Massachusetts rather than pack up their things and venture back to Seattle. By the way, hate to break it to you guys, but this isn't actually Massachusetts. The show was shot in Nova Scotia and Ontario. Fun Think Story fact, I actually went to school here. Not Matheson Academy, it's actually a college in Canada. In the novels, the story is set in Lovecraft, Massachusetts, named after the horror fiction writer H.P. Lovecraft, but it was author Joe Hill's idea to change it to Matheson after Richard Matheson, the author of I Am Legend. Some of you may know author Joe Hill, but may not know he's the son of Stephen King, and he even makes a guest appearance as a paramedic in the final episode. The show is actually filled with cameos like legendary prosthetic artist Tom Savini, who Scott Cavendish and his friends named their friend group after. But back to the main dilemma. Echoes like Dodge cannot be killed.
I mean, we literally can't kill her.
Ellie said echoes can't be killed by normal means.
So the gang decides to trap it back where it came from, the Black Door. But Dodge has her own plans, and she's armed with what's known in the novels as the Shadow Crown. When it's combined with the Shadow Key, it essentially activates, giving the wielder the ability to control the shadows. We see this with Dodge's attack on the Lockhouse, whose shadows are in search of the Omega Key. The Omega Key is arguably one of the most important keys and was the first to be made by Benjamin Locke, a great ancestor of Tyler, Kinsey, and Bodhi way back in 1775. It's so important, in fact, that Rendell Locke buries it in his skull so no one can get to it, a fact that's only made known to his family when Nina goes full crazy and smashes the jar of ashes, revealing the still intact key. Benjamin Locke found the Black Door while hiding during the American Revolution, accidentally letting the Children of Leng escape. The Children of Leng are the demons whose world is only accessible through that Black Door. In order to survive, however, they need a human host. Demons who fail to find a host turn into what's called Whispering Iron. Although the show never mentions it, this is likely an example of it shown here. This iron is the same material that the keys are made out of. With Bodhi disintegrating Dodge's shadow with the matchstick key, the gang is led to believe this body here is Dodge's, but this is all part of a greater master plan. We find out that Dodge used the identity key on Ellie, turning her into an identical copy of Dodge. So while the gang thought they were throwing Dodge through the Black Door, it was actually Ellie, who in the real world is simply considered a missing person. That really sucks, but not as bad as Rufus, who now has to live with his uncle in Nebraska. And hold on a second, can we just acknowledge how much of a player Dodge is? Demon just straight up made out with Kinsey, then 2 seconds later uses the Anywhere key and makes out with her brother. And don't even get me started on this whole polyamory storyline.
What if I dated you both?
No, thank you!
So the family finally decides to let Rendell's ashes go. Nina had previously kept the urn above the fireplace, but scattering the ashes over the cliffs is symbolic of her and the family moving on with their lives. Rendell's death was the catalyst for many of our characters' weaknesses that we had to see them overcome. Kinsey, for example, believes that she's a coward. When Sam Lesser, the teen who killed her father, confronted her at gunpoint, she had the chance to try and attack him with a fire poker, but she was too afraid to do it. She's even afraid to go on a date with Scott, but by the end of the season, she's killed her own fear, literally, and is open to dating multiple people at the same time. Talk about a change. Then there's Tyler, who's haunted by the death of his father. He believes that it's his fault Rendell died. In a conversation with Sam, he vents his frustration, saying,
"You ever do decide to kill your dad, do me a favor, kill mine while you're at it."
It's 4 episodes later that Tyler finds out his words had nothing to do with Rendell's death. Sam killed Rendell because he was being manipulated by Dodge. It had nothing to do with what Tyler had said. This guilt weighs heavily on Tyler throughout the season, causing him to be overprotective of those he loves to make up for it. When confronting an asshole hitting on his sister, he wastes no time beating the crap out of him. This is further personified when, for a brief moment, the player turns into Sam. With our characters having changed and everything hunky-dory, all seems right in the world until the revelation that Dodge had been secretly undercover as Gabe via the identity key. He also happens to be the only one who witnessed Eden get hit by one of those demonic bullets. This leads us with tons of theories of where the show might be headed. With 2 demons on the loose and both of them undercover, a lot of damage can be done. Now we know the Locke family is in possession of several of the keys as seen here, and most importantly the Omega key. It's highly likely that Eden and Gabe will use the element of surprise to their advantage to gain control of more of these keys. And with Scott essentially having cut ties with Kinsley romantically, that leaves our undercover Gabe the perfect opportunity to exploit his love with Kinsley in order to access her box. I mean her musical box. We also have the relationship between Tyler and Jackie. Now we know Jackie considers herself a history buff and Anglophile. Heck, Tyler even throws a book about British history in his head to learn more to impress her. And I think this could lead to Jackie and Tyler looking more into the history of the Locke family. After all, the event which started the family's entanglement with the keys all centered around the American Revolution against the British. We've only had a brief glimpse of the ghost of Chamberlain Locke, who roams the graveyard on the Locke estate, but we didn't get to learn at all about Benjamin, the original creator of the keys. I wouldn't be surprised if season 2 delves more into the origins of the keys, not to mention a slew of keys that are known in the books but haven't yet been introduced in the show. One such important key is the Alpha Alpha Key, the only object that can separate a demon from the human soul. That might sound like good news for Eden, but the process of removing a demon from its human soul results in the death of both. Now you might think, why not just use the head key to travel into the brain and just remove the demon that way? Well, since the demon latches onto your soul and not your mind, it simply doesn't work that way. In the books, the Alpha Key is created by Tyler, so it's possible we could see him creating new keys to combat Gabe and Eden in season 2. Now the show only really covered about 10 keys, give or take, but throughout the graphic novels there are roughly 34. If you're interested in learning more about these keys, I've left a link to the Locke and Key wiki page in the description below. And will Ellie come back? Well, with Rufus shipped off to Nebraska and the Locke family really getting over her quite quickly, I'd probably guess no. Ellie's story in the novels is drastically different. She doesn't even get sucked into the Black Door at all, so unfortunately that doesn't give us any clues. It's still uncertain whether Locke and Key will be back for another season, but with its big cliffhanger and the growing popularity of these haunted house type shows, I'd be surprised if it didn't come back for a round 2. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and tell me in the comments below what you thought of the show. You can also reach out and follow me on Twitter at ThinkStoryYT as the best way to stay in touch. Until next time, remember,
Aloha!